Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Torah Studies. Celebrated such a beautiful Pesach, and this week we read Parshas Shmini. It is the blessing. We bless the new month, the month of Iyar, and the portion of Shmini is many times. Usually, it's read very close to the holiday of Pesach. And in the beginning of the portion, the Torah talks about Vayehi Bayem Hashmini was on the 8th day. This was the inauguration of the Holy Temple, the Tabernacle in the desert. And you can only imagine what kind of an excitement this was. This was especially after the sin of the golden calf. The Jewish people were waiting to see that they're forgiven. And not only that, for the very first time, Hashem comes down and shows his presence in this physical world in the form of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the place, the home of Hashem that Hashem commanded us. You should make for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell amongst you. And that happened on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, first day of Nisan. And this was a very exciting time. However, as you know, that day also incurred a terrible tragedy. The sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, they tragically died when they offered a special offering which was unauthorized. And we're not going to focus on this story. We spoke about the story in the past, how they were so excited about getting close to Hashem, and they took it one step more than they should have, because ultimately Hashem wants us to bring the godliness down here, but they were completely in their excitement to get close to Hashem, and that's how they died. But then, and that was on that day of celebration, and then it led to a question, and led to actually a differences of understanding between Moses and Aaron, and that is in reference to the offerings that was brought on that day. Hashem commanded different offerings to be brought. There were special offerings for the inauguration. And then there was offerings being, it was Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the month. There was a special offering for Rosh Chodesh as it was commanded in the Torah. Now, Moshe said to Aaron, and Aaron, of course, he had 4 children and 2 of them died. And he said to him that Hashem commanded me you should eat the offerings regardless of the tragedy. Because as we're going to see in a minute, the special laws when a person unfortunately, tragically loses a relative, until the burial, the person is not allowed to participate in different mitzvahs and offerings. So Moshe told him, but in your case, you should eat the offerings. But then there was a misunderstanding or differences of understanding regarding the Rosh Chodesh offering. And Aaron and his sons did not eat that particular offering. And Moses got upset. So, and this is, the Rebbe learns a very important, very interesting lesson in life based on this story. And the lesson is when it comes to living our life in accordance to Torah. Sometimes people feel, as they say, I'm not really true to myself. Am I really doing the right things? Am I really fully doing what Hashem wants for me? I am far from it. And every person in their own level can think that way. And sometimes, sometimes I'm davening, praying. In the middle of the davening, I realize, middle of Shemona Esrei, the thoughts run wild. Sometimes there's so many things to do, and then in the middle of davening, you realize, oh, what am I doing? I gotta focus. So I continue to focus in the middle of the davening. And then I say to myself, well, what happened to the davening until now? Am I hypocritical? It was that davening is gone. I can't fix it anymore. So am I really davening? And every person their level can ask yourself this question. And we're going to learn from this lesson tonight how, no matter what level you are, the Alter Rebbe teaches us that there is the truth that you have to stick to. Even if it may not be a perfect truth, even if it may be a relative truth, but if you stick to your truth, whatever you do it fully. At the moment when you are you're focusing fully the best that you can do. That leads you to the right path, step after step. So let's begin. We'll look inside. So that's the question. And as we did in the previous lessons, we are focusing on Rashi. And we're learning from, one of the things we learned from Rashi is that Rashi always explains the Torah something which we don't understand, something when a question rises. When there is no question, Rashi doesn't bother to explain anything. So here we're reading in the verse about the sons of Aaron. Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, each took his pan, put fire in it, and placed incense upon the flame. Thus they offered fire that was foreign to God, because he had not commanded them to bring it. And the fire emerged from before God and consumed them, and they died before God. So that was a terrible tragedy. And during this period, it's called onenut, onenus, and onen. An onen is in the period, a mourner, when a person, tragically, when someone loses a relative, immediate relative. So from the time of a death until the time of burial, the person does not get involved in prayer and other things. He's basically occupied with burying the dead. But in our case, God ordained that Aaron and his surviving sons, that they partake in the festive offerings despite the tragedy. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu commanded them. He says, eat the offerings in a holy place, because it is your portion and your son's portion from the godly flames on the altar for so I was commanded. However, as I said before, they brought the offerings and they ate the offerings except for one. One of the offerings being that the day of the inauguration was Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the month, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And every Rosh Chodesh, the Torah tells us to bring a he-goat offering for forgiveness of the Jewish people. Once a month, a special offering. This offering, they did not eat. Instead, they burned it. So Aaron and his sons burned the Rosh Chodesh offering instead of eating it. Now Moshe Rabbeinu was not happy. I told you, says Moshe, to eat it. Why didn't you eat it? As we read in the Torah, Moses thoroughly investigated what had happened to the he-goat sin offering and discovered that it had been burned. He was angry with Elazar and Itamar, Aaron's surviving sons, saying, "Why did you not eat the sin offerings in the sacred place?" You know, the eating of the sin offerings is very important because this is how the atonement comes to the Jewish people. The sin offerings is brought at the altar, and parts of it is eaten by the Cohens. And when they eat, that brings the forgiveness. So Moshe tells you should have eaten it in a holy place as I instructed. And then Aaron comes to Moshe and says, Moshe, there is a difference between the sin offerings of the Rosh Chodesh offering and the other offerings. The other offerings was a special offerings for the inauguration day of the temple. The way Aaron understood the message, the instructions that God gave, that it should be eaten despite the fact that they are mourners, Aaron understood it to be only for those offerings that are part of the inauguration offerings, but not for that offering of Rosh Chodesh, which was, although it was the first time they did it, but this was a regular offering that from then on, every month they would bring it. So that was not part of the inauguration offerings. So that Aaron understood it this way, and that's what he tells Moshe. That's why we ate it. So as the Torah says, and Aaron spoke to Moses, but today did my sons offer up their sin and burnt offerings before God? They did not, I did. Would God be pleased with me if I ate sin offerings today despite these tragic events that befell me? And here comes the interesting part. Moshe hears the argument, and the Torah says, Vayishma Moshe, vayitav be'einav. Moses heard this, and it pleased him. So basically he was happy, and he conceded to Aaron. He says, guess what? You're right. So what's going on over here? Moshe Rabbeinu hears it, and Aaron's defense, Aaron says, we were instructed to partake in the inaugural offerings, not all offerings. The Rosh Chodesh offering was not brought in honor of the inauguration. What was Moshe's response? Moses was pleased with this argument, with this answer. Now, as we discussed in the previous lessons, we talk about the Rashi. when something bothers you in the verse, Rashi asks the question and he explains. So if we read this verse, does anything come up that is not understood? Moses heard, he heard this, and he was pleased. It pleased him. What's not understood? What's wrong with this verse? What requires explanation in this verse? Anybody? Anything comes up? Any something that is not understood in this verse?
It says pleased them. I didn't say it satisfied them.
Pleased him. Vayita ve'enav. It pleased him and not satisfied it.
Right. When
He heard it.
pleasure is a different word than satisfaction from the response.
Okay, that may be a question of the right English interpretation.
It also doesn't say heard what, does it? It doesn't mean he heard.
Oh. Now you're
heard. What did he hear?
Not exactly. Now you're getting somewhere. Okay. When we're talking about hearing, let's see first. We're gonna reverse engineer it. We're gonna see what Rashi explains and then try to figure out what was bothering Rashi in this verse. Okay. Let's do it this way. So when it comes to, we're going to see, before we get to Rashi, when it says here what David just mentioned, Vayishma Moshe heard, what did he hear? I mean, the verse says that Aaron spoke to Moshe. So if Aaron spoke to Moshe, obviously Moshe heard. Every time there is a narrative in the Torah that he spoke to him, the Torah doesn't say, and the other guy heard. Here it says Aaron spoke to Moshe, he gave him the answer. It says Vayishma Moshe, Vayita ve'enav. He heard it, and it pleased him. So what does it mean, the hearing? So obviously the hearing does not just mean hearing. In Yiddish there is the word Herren and der Herren. Herren means hearing. Der Herren means really getting it is der Herren, internalizing it. And that the Frierdiker Rebbe brings from his father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe. Says, my honorable saintly father-in-law, the Rebbe, would say that there is a hearing and there is internalizing. Herren und der Herren. Many passages use the term listening not to say that one heard, but that one internalized and accepted. For example, there's a verse in Samuel, Daber kishomei avdecha. Speak, for your servant is listening. I hear you. In English also, the word I hear you, what does it mean I hear you? Not just that you actually hear with your physical ears, but I hear you, I get you. So the same thing also in when the Jewish people accepted the Torah. It says, Naseh venishma, we will do and we will listen. There are many other examples that do not refer to mere listening, but to accepting. So when we're saying Vayishma Moshe, it means Moses not only listened, not only he heard, but he really accepted the argument. Vayishma Moshe, Moshe heard it. He heard what Aaron was saying. And then Rashi points out and it says, Vayitav be'einav. What does it mean that it pleased him? Says Rashi, he acknowledged the answer and was not ashamed to say, I did not hear. What is Rashi saying? Rashi is saying, if it says already Vayishma Moshe, that Moshe heard, so what does it mean again, and it pleased him? If we just explain that Moses heard, it means that he understood, he accepted it. So obviously it pleased him. So why does the Torah repeat that it pleased him? And that is what Rashi is telling us, that you know what really happened over here. Moses, when he heard what Aaron said, that there is a difference between this offering and that offering, he realized that Aaron is right. And although he did not hear it from Hashem himself, he was not embarrassed to go and say, "Oh, I didn't hear it. I didn't get to that conclusion, but Aaron did." And he went around excitingly and not being embarrassed and saying to everyone, "Look, my brother, look what he said, and he's right. That there is a difference between this offering and other offerings." So that's the simple reading understanding of the Rashi. Now the question is, why not? Why didn't Moshe get to this conclusion? We know that this was one of the in a sense, the reward that Hashem gave to Aaron. Also, because he accepted and didn't say anything when his children died. It was things that Hashem said to Aaron alone, not to Moshe. But the question is, if Moshe Rabbeinu heard the Torah from Hashem, and he understood the Torah obviously very thoroughly, so what's going on over here? That particular law that Moshe didn't get, and Aaron got, and Moshe went around saying, "You know what? My brother is right." And he was not ashamed of saying it. I mean, he could have said, just stay quiet and saying, "Okay, you're right," and not publicizing it. Here it says, "Vayita be'einav." Rashi says, "Hoda v'lo bosh." He admitted, he acknowledged it. He was not ashamed to go around and say it, that I did not hear it. Aaron came up with this, and Aaron heard this message from Hashem. So that is the question. What made Aaron's teaching so exciting and so inspiring to Moshe? So one question was, how come Moshe didn't come up with his idea? And another question is, when he heard this, he got so excited. He got so excited and went around saying to everyone, "This is what Hashem said. You got to bring this offering, but not this offering." What is so exciting about it? So to understand this, why Moshe got so excited over Aaron's analysis, we need to understand why Moshe didn't think of it himself. And to understand this, it brings us to the core of who was Moshe, what was the level, the attribute of Moshe, and who was Aaron. These two sages, these two brothers, the leaders of the Jewish people, they both led the Jewish people. Moshe was on one level, Aaron was on a totally other level. It says Moshe was the level of truth. Emes, truth. No matter what happens, he saw the truth. And when you see the truth, when you see the right things, when you're with God, you see only things the way Hashem sees, there is no room for compromises. You just see the truth. You got to tell the truth. And that's what he was expecting from others also, that they should also see the truth and also not compromising and only doing what is true. Now, Aaron, on the other hand, Aaron was a man of peace. Isha Chesed, the Cohen, it says the Cohen is the man of kindness and a man of peace. So Aaron was, whatever happened, he was, it says, Evemi Talmido Shalaran, he should be like the students of Aaron, Ohev Shalom, Verodev Shalom, love peace and seek peace. You know, when you have, when your wife tells the husband, I'm fat. So there are two reactions. There's a person who is a person of truth. They'll say, yes, you're fat. Go do something about it. It's not out of cruelty, but it is truth. It cannot see it otherwise. A person that is kind, is full of kindness. When she tells him or she asks him, am I fat? He says, oh, you're beautiful. You're nice. You're good. So Moshe is the man of truth. Aaron is the man of kindness. In the Talmud it says sometimes for the sake of peace, you're allowed to leshanot, to change things a little bit. And that is why Moshe and Aaron saw this rule in different lights. You see, when it came this offering of this inauguration day, when Hashem brought the light, brought the Kedusha, Hashem introduced this was an inauguration day. If you see it from the point of view of Moshe, Hashem says, no matter what happens today, even though there is tragedies, unfortunately, you continue with eating the meat. We're celebrating here. We are connecting with Hashem with the ultimate truth. And therefore, it makes no difference what offering it is. It is this offering that we bring regularly in the future generations, doesn't matter. We need to do what needs to be done. It has to be eaten, you eat it. Aaron saw it differently. From Moshe's perspective, he saw the way it is seen from above, from Hashem. In the way it is seen from a person, at least, who has connection with Hashem, who sees nothing can interfere in that connection. But Aaron is a person who is with his feet on the ground. He is with his people. And he tells to Moshe, you know what? When it comes to the inauguration, the offering of the inaugurating offerings, I agree, that has to be eaten. There's a moment of excitement, a moment of spirituality. You have to overlook other things. But when it comes to the regular offering, the day-to-day offering, the offering that is brought every month, Kochei Dorot, that offering that is going to brought in for generations to come, I can't eat it. We live in this world. We are mourners. We are suffering. We are in pain. You can't expect from people in that level to be completely forget about everything what's happening around them. And this is when Moshe realized, and they came together. The chesed and the emes are able to be joined together, the kindness and the truth. There's a verse, chesed ve'emes nifgashu tzedek v'shalom nashaku. Kindness and truth have met, righteousness and peace have kissed. In other words, the fact that there is truth on one end and kindness on the other end, you would think that those two can never come together. The Torah says no. You can bring them together and they can come and make peace and kiss. The Alter Rebbe in Likutei Torah tells us about what it says in the Kabbalah and the Zohar regarding the functions that Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron the Cohen had at the time of the giving of the Torah. The giving of the Torah is like a marriage. Hashem marries the Jewish people. Hashem is the husband, we are the wives. When we lead our children under the chuppah, there is a custom that you have shushvinim, those who usher the chassan and the kala. The parents, of course. So some have a custom that both fathers usher the groom and both mothers usher the bride. Others have the custom that the parents of the groom take the groom, the parents of the bride take the bride. But it has this concept of each one needs someone to support them. Both the husband and the wife need someone to help them along the way, not just because we're afraid to get cold feet, but to give them the strength, to give them the power, to find the deeper connection, to help them along in this union. And that is exactly what is happening when Hashem comes down to the Mount Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu, says the Kabbalah, the Zohar, he's Shushvina de Malka. He is the Shushvin, he's the usher that leads God, the king, to the Jewish people. Aaron, he's the Shushvina de Matronita. He's the usher of the bride. He helps along the bride, the Jewish people, to help them along, to lift them up, step after step, to bring them closer to Hashem. That's what the Alter Rebbe explains in the Likutei Torah, says the Alter Rebbe. Moses is the companion of the king. Just as the groom's companion ushers the groom to the bride, so did Moses usher the state of divine, the state of divine oneness into this world so that it could be palpable in every soul. And all would know that God is the source of life. That is what Moshe is doing. Knowledge does not just mean to know. What is knowledge? Where does knowledge come in here? Moshe, it says, is the one who brings us knowledge in God. And knowledge does not just mean to know. It means to sense it palpably in the heart, to recognize God, to feel as if we are gazing upon God and seeing Him with our physical eyes. This is what Moshe is doing. Aaron is from the other end. Aaron is the accompanying the bride, the people. Aaron inspires everyone to emerge, to embrace God on their level and grow at their own pace. So by Aaron, it's not just a one-size-fits-all approach. He's a God, it's good, got to do everything. Aaron is about different stroke for different folks approach. Each one in their own level. Each one in their own level, they need to grow, find their truth, and elevate themselves. That's what Alter Rebbe continues. Aaron is the companion of the bride. In this context, the bride is a euphemism for the Jewish people, the collective Jewish soul, to bind them to God, so that they can become attached. So this is the difference between Moshe and Aaron. Moshe Rabbeinu is the man of truth, absolute devotion to God, and therefore he held everyone to the same high standard, and he urged others to overcome their weaknesses heads on. Aaron is a different approach. Aaron is the man of the people. He guided steady spiritual growth, practiced kindness and understanding, and he nurtured individuals through their weaknesses. Says the Rebbe, there is the difference between the chesed and emes. Among the distinctions between truth and kindness, truth is unchanging. It is always the same regardless of time, place, and circumstances. Kindness, however, is about helping others. This requires careful consideration of each recipient's circumstances and dispositions. They are not all alike. Moreover, the kindness a giver might want to bestow might not be kindness to the recipient. If you see a person who's starved for weeks, a Holocaust survivor or a hostage that comes out of Gaza, you're going to be so kind of him and give him a whole full meal of steak and whatever, he's going to get sick. Yeah, you want to bestow kindness, but kindness has to be given in measure according to the level of the people. That was Aaron. Aaron was the kindness, the person who went step after step, getting to the people in their level. And at the same time, it doesn't mean that Aaron compromised in observances. The Mishnah says you should be from the students of Aaron, who loved Ohevet Abriot umekarvan la Torah. He loved the creatures and he brought them close to the Torah. And the Rebbe points out that it doesn't say he loved the creature. By the way, creatures, it means people. People that are on such a low level that the only virtue you can say about them is that they are creatures of God. There's nothing else you can say about them. And yet he loved the creatures, but he brought them close to the Torah. So the Rebbe points out that it doesn't say that he brought the Torah close to them. He brought them close to the Torah, which means he knew that we have a Torah, and the Torah is the Torah of truth and the Torah of God, and you have to reach, you can't compromise with the laws of the Torah. But in the same time, he wouldn't stuff them everything at once. He would go gradually. He would feed the people according to their ability to swallow. That was Aaron. Moshe was different. Moses, the man of truth, was predisposed to thinking that all time frames and circumstances must be treated equally in case of doubt. Therefore, in our case, he saw no difference between the temporary, inaugural, and the permanent regular offerings. The sacred aura the people experienced on that holy day should be all prevalent. Aaron, however, was a man of kindness. He was characterized as a lover of peace and a pursuer of peace, one who loves God's creations and draws them close to the Torah. He was devoted to all Jews, including Jews, whose only redeeming quality was that they were God's creations. He helped each according to their requirements. Accordingly, Aaron was trained to see subtle differences. He saw a distinction between the temporary, inaugural, and permanent regular offerings. We can't expect the recipient, those who need our kindness, those who need to be drawn close to God, through the sacred offerings, always to maintain the same intense passion for holiness that they enjoyed on that day. Aaron had this wisdom to understand this. I can tell you, I was guilty myself of this. Sometimes, I had this Shavuot, for example. We were up all night, Shvi Shel Pesach, the 7th day of Pesach. We studied, and there walked in two people. I heard about this special thing of studying that night. They're not regular shul goers, and we were learning. They learned until what is it, 3 o'clock in the morning. Chassidus, the depth of this, and I was so excited, and I was sure that the next morning they'll show up in shul. They're so excited about this, and of course they'll continue. I was thinking the way I think. Aaron is teaching us that you have to go down to their level. Obviously, they didn't show up the next day, but after obviously, I was thinking about it, and I said, you know what, got to go step after step. So, by Moshe, so this is the difference between Moshe and Aaron. So Moshe is the man of truth. For him, everything is truth. If there is truth, if it's holy here, then it's holy there. Everything is holy. You got to go. They say there was one of the rabbis in the Polish towns, a Katzke Rebbe. He always demanded truth. They say there was once a Jew came over to the town of Kotsk before Yom Kippur. So he heard, we all know comes Yom Kippur. It's a very special day, the holiest day of the year. And we're all excited to the very special prayer of Yom Kippur. The Yom Kippur Eve, it's called the prayer of Kol Nidre. But he heard the Gabbai announcing, Ma'ariv will be at 6 o'clock. He's like thinking, what? Ma'ariv? Ma'ariv is the regular evening davening. So he didn't understand. Fast forward comes Pesach, the day before Pesach, and he hears the announcement, supper would be 9 o'clock. And he's like, supper? Day of Pesach, we're going to have a Seder. What is supper? The dinner, regular dinner. And then one chassid there explained to him, and he told him. He asked him, why the night of Yom Kippur you call it Ma'ariv? The night of the Seder you call it supper. He explained to him, by us, every Ma'ariv is a Kol Nidre, and every supper is a Seder. If we see God, if we see the truth, so every time we sit down by the table, we're sitting by a Seder. We're sitting somewhere doing God's work, God's meal. Every prayer is like a Kol Nidre. So that's the level of having people in that level of truth. And that's the way Moshe Rabbeinu saw things. Aaron HaKohen saw things different. And he tells Moshe that, yes, I know, I understand. You are seeing things in that way. But I am down on the ground with the people. And I see that each and every person in their level, they have the kernel of truth. And even though they might not be so excited, they might not be so with in levels like Moshe Rabbeinu, like you, but still in their levels. When you go, you find the truth in their levels. And that is why he says, I make a difference between this offering and that offering. It's not all the same. And that was something that Moses got from Aaron. And he was very excited about it. Because, it says, I forgot who says this. I think it says, Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem showed him the future generations. And it says that Moshe Rabbeinu was jealous of our generation. The generation of Mashiach, right before the coming of Mashiach, Moses was jealous of us. Why was he jealous of us? The fact that we're going in this level, so down, so low, living in 2025, in Sheepshead Bay, in these places, and still being excited with the little Yiddishkeit that we do. If we put on tefillin, we're excited about the tefillin. If we do the Torah study, we stay excited about this. We're doing it full. We are full into it. With every mitzvah we do full into it. So that Moshe Rabbeinu saw this, what Aaron is telling him, and that is Vayitav Be'einav. He was so pleased with this. And as Rashi says, he went around to tell, look what Aaron tells me. Reminds me, I was talking to I grew up in Yerushalayim with people that are very, very strict and holy, studying Torah day and night. And I visited Yerushalayim from time to time, and I go back to these communities. And when I tell them about simple people, Jews that are so far from Yiddishkeit, and they're so excited about doing a mitzvah, they're like amazed. Wow. You can't, it's like, you see, when a simple Jew does a mitzvah and does it with the truth, that's what Moshe, that was the enlightening that Moses got from Aaron when he saw this. And that is the Vayitav Be'einav. Moshe Rabbeinu liked it so much. So Moses believed the inaugural holiness should extend to all offerings, but Aaron recognized that inspiration varies, allowing differences of rules for two sets of offerings. That was Aaron. It's from the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, the way Rabbi Steinsaltz explains it. He says, everything that exists has some truth. And this point of truth is its essence. Truth is like a chain that reaches from the highest heights to the lowest lows, from the top to the bottom. It permeates and is the inner dimension of each level along the spectrum. There is no limit to the types of things that can be true. From the highest point in existence to the lowest, each point, whatever it might be, has a point of truth. And that was what Moshe Rabbeinu was so excited. Moses was so excited about Aaron's perspective because it was a groundbreaking and transformative idea for him. So this is the answer to the question we asked in the beginning. When a person goes ahead and does a mitzvah, is that, if that person is not yet fully observing, is this hypocrisy? And the answer is, of course not. You're doing what you're doing with the ultimate truth. And that is the way Aaron saw it. Of course, we aim to fulfill everything. And a year from now, if you're going to go back and look back at yourself, what you did today, you're going to say, that was nothing. Yes, of course. Relative to what you're going to be a year from now, what you're doing today may be nothing, but relative to what you're today, you're doing it fully. You're investing your full everything. That was Moshe and Aaron. So I want to ask you a question. So who is better to be a leader, Moshe or Aaron? What do you think?
Has to be both.
Oh, you know the answer.
I
give a
agree.
Jewish
Both.
answer.
Absolutely. You need to have a general and you need to have a corporal.
Why is it that we need to have both?
One has to give more instructions to handle the masses, to oversee things. It's like an army, a chain of command. Chain of command, Rabbi.
I think
Okay.
you need both perspectives. Like you need both parents. It's the way that
You need
mother and the father,
the carrot and the stick.
guard and the stick, mother and the father. Remember that God, we are the bride to Hashem, right?
Yeah,
So, and we're children to Hashem, right? So we need in a marriage there has to be a husband and a wife, and
that's
in
true.
parenthood there has to be a mother and a father. And
What
if
about it?
you're missing one, you just have the strictness Isaac, then and no kindness of
Abraham.
Abraham, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
then you cannot. We are imperfect creatures. That
I
if
once told a story that was in Lag BaOmer. Every year in Crown Heights, they had the parade with the fair, with the rides and this and that. So I don't remember all the details of the story, but it was one of one of the rides was like a big ferry wheel that went up and it got stuck, and there was a kid on top and got stuck and got so scared and started screaming Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, like it's like his life is in danger. And the Rebbe, I think the Rebbe mentioned to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe mentioned that the whole parade was worth for that Shema Yisrael alone. So obviously you're not talking about a child having fear and this. Moshe Rabbeinu gives us the very essence, the very truth. Where in today's Tanya, actually, we learn about when God says, the Torah says, what does God want from you? Not much, just to fear Hashem. And the Gemara asks, to fear God is not much? It's a big, big deal to fear God, to get to that level. And the answer the Gemara gives is, yes, it's a big deal, but for Moses, it's not a big deal. So the Alter Rebbe asks in Tanya today, what kind of answer is this? The Torah is not just given for Moses, the Torah is given to every Jew. So when it says it's not a big deal, it means to every Jew it's not a big deal. And the answer the Alter Rebbe gives is that when the Gemara says that for Moses it's not a big deal, it's not talking about Moses the person, it's talking about the Moses that it is in each and every one of us. We all have that Moses, a part, a little bit of that Moses that Moshe Rabbeinu gives us. We wouldn't be able to have that fear of Hashem without the Moshe. We do need to see somewhere deep in our soul the essence and the truth. And in the same time, we got to merge with kindness and feed that Moses with kindness like Aaron. So you're right. We need to have both. We need to have both leaders. We need both leaders to be able to lead us to the right place.
Rabbi, it was there was a news, about Catholic. The Pope has died. So what's interesting about it right now? There's a big discussion because the Pope had philosophy outside of religion, which was very socialist philosophy. It was called Socialist Pope or Liberation Theology Pope. The reason I bring this up is not to discuss Catholicism, but the reason to bring this up because there is this movement throughout all the religions, and I think in Judaism too, where when the religions try to accommodate the secular philosophy, the secular world,